NFTs, non-fungible tokens. Or more accurately, Ferengi tokens, cause NFTs are some Ferengi shit.
Exploitation begins at home!
Exploitation begins at home.
And sadly not the adorable Nog type of Ferengi, but more the
humans, spend platinum with us, humans.
kind of Ferengis.
Oh my god, he cannot be more Ferengi. The big ears, the beady eyes, the greedy thing they do with their hands. Human. Yeah. Ferengi.
You know, the ones with the sex whips?
What is this?
At least they were kinky, cause NFTs are definitely not kinky. But for those of you who don't know what they are, NFTs, at least how they're currently being marketed and used, are the latest in a long line of scams in the digital age. Except for this time, they're not trying to get your grandmother to pay over her money to a Nigerian prince, but now they're trying to sell you starships. Or the sprite from a decades-old video game? Or whatever the hell this is. Can we go back to the Ferengi? But more accurately, what NFTs are basically trying to sell you a sort of digital receipt that says you own an online digital image of a thing that anyone can copy and paste. And if all that sounds confusing, don't worry, we'll get into it. The confusion is part of the problem that we're going to be discussing. But as many of you know, even though I work really hard to keep it on the DL, I'm actually a huge Trekkie, and I love and adore this franchise and all that it stands for. It's a series about taking delight in the differences of life forms and about a positive vision of humanity where we all work to uplift everyone around us. We all try to make sure that everyone has equal access to everything that they need so that they can pursue their best selves and not have to worry about wrestling for just basic needs of survival. So naturally, ViacomCBS announced a partnership with Recur to sell Star Trek NFTs. Ferengi shit indeed.
Sickening.
And the NFT program, called Star Trek Continuum, was set to launch at the first official Star Trek convention to happen since the pandemic started, Star Trek Mission Chicago. And coincidentally, I actually got to go to that con, and it was honestly a life-changing experience for me for numerous reasons, and I spoke about that experience in this video right here, and I honestly encourage you to check out this video because it'll be much happier than this one because it's just an hour of me gushing and spreading joy and sharing what I think humanity and life means to me and how that was represented at this convention. About how Star Trek is about more than just loving this weird, dorky, silly science fiction franchise, but about taking the values of Trek and putting it out into the real world. But unfortunately, this NFT sale, Star Trek Continuum, stood against everything that was. And people were even more upset that many Star Trek actors themselves, who are often seen not just for their work in this science fiction franchise, but like Star Trek itself, their activism outside of the franchise and their importance to representation on the show and elsewhere, got roped into promoting these NFTs. Star Trek Discovery's Anthony Rapp, David Ajala, and Sonequa Martin Green, who all have the goodwill of numerous minority communities for their activism, all tweeted promotions for NFTs before the conference and even did a panel at the con to promote them. How could someone like them, who have done so much good work in and out of the franchise, do something like that? And should we be calling them out for it? Well, both with NFTs and that situation, it's more complicated than you think. And so I want to take this video to talk about, number one, why these NFTs were a failure and how we can use it as a good model to push back against NFTs. But also go further than that, because I think the entire situation with NFTs in Star Trek provides us a good opportunity for us to discuss why NFTs are a scam, what NFTs actually are, and how many companies today are trying to use NFTs to milk fan bases' love and passion with a confusing grift, and why it's important to also separate the art we love from the people who create it and the systems that they find themselves in, but also acknowledge the complicated structure that art sits within and numerous other topics, not the least of which how NFTs are actually a reflection of capitalism itself and how it makes us all complicit in really horrible systems, whether we like to or not. And actually speaking on that, if you stick around, I'll actually tell you about how I myself personally got reached out to sell these very NFTs to Trekkies on this very YouTube channel. They wanted me to sell them to all of you, and how their tactics prove the point. So first things first, let's talk about what NFTs are and the ways that most of you out there are seeing them. NFTs, which I said before, stands for non-fungible tokens, and they're basically a sort of digital ledger associated with any type of digital file, like photos, videos, audio, a piece of code, a document, anything digital really. They're considered like a proof of ownership, kind of like a receipt that you own that specific file. So if you have an NFT, it's associated with this file and it says that you are the one that owns it, and you can transfer that NFT to someone else and it says that they own that digital file. Now, NFTs can have varying uses, but there is one main way that we've seen them being used to sell to a consumer-facing audience, to all us normal folks out here. That owning this digital file, usually some form of photograph, is equivalent to owning a painting in your own house. If that's confusing, let's take a look at Star Trek Continuum to help us understand it a little bit more tangibly. If you bought one of these Star Trek packs that they were selling on their website, which sold for $250 freaking dollars, you'd get an NFT that said you owned a AI-generated starship design that followed original starship design rules set out by the creators of original Star Trek ships. Each NFT was associated with one of these AI-generated starships, and if you know Trekkies, we get more excited than Janeway was to kill Tuvix to get more starships.
If we'd had the ability to separate Tuvok and Neelix the moment Tuvix came aboard, I wouldn't have hesitated.
Of course not.
I mean, I own so many of these things. I mean, literally just off camera is like a wall of starship things that I have over there. I even own the Enterprise J, the silliest starship in all of Star Trek, and dear God, do I love this thing. Look, it's like a freaking waffle. Little sticks for nacelles.
You broke your little ships.
So these NFTs sound cool, right? You get your own little digital starship design that's unique to you. Well, not really. First off, these AI designs are incredibly stupid. I mean, look at this thing, giving the Enterprise J a run for its warp core. So there's that. But more importantly, even if they were the coolest starship designs ever, what you're buying with an NFT isn't actually this artwork. It's a receipt that says you own that artwork, not the artwork itself. You get a line of code on the blockchain that says you own this specific file. A file that anyone can copy and paste. I mean, quite literally, I got this image off of Twitter, which means that someone bought the NFT to this thing, and it doesn't matter, I can just use it in this video, who the hell cares? So whoever owns this guy, I'm sorry, you own a little piece of digital code, not this image. Sounds confusing, right? And I know it's kind of hard to understand it, to be honest. I still don't completely understand it, and I've been looking into this thing for a decent amount of time. But that confusion is actually part of the point, and part of the intention of the scam. Because for me, in order to learn more about NFTs, I had to do a shit ton of research to really get what they are. They're all embroiled in words like cryptocurrency and blockchain and things like that, which all sound exciting and futuristic, and in some ways these technologies can be that, but they're also confusing. And while most of you in my audience are smart, sexy people who know lots of things, most people are confused about what NFTs even are. I mean, when I was at the con, just walking around with all these Trekkies, I heard so many people say that they were actually kind of unsure what NFTs even were. But of course, that curiosity leads you to go up and ask the people that are selling NFTs, well, what are you selling? What are the things that you're trying to get me to buy? And what they tell you is, well, you need to get in on it right now because NFTs are the next best thing. You do not want to be left behind. They are this cool futuristic thing. You get your own AI-generated starship. It's unique to you. It might look a little bit silly, but it's really, really cool. Trust us. And by the way, we're selling these in packs of $250. And also, they might even go up in value in a few more years, like because you might be able to resell them. In fact, it's kind of like the toys that you buy in a package that if you keep it in the package for years and years and years, they'll get more and more expensive and you can sell it later and it'll be so much more worthwhile because it's so unique. You know, like those Beanie Babies totally did. Oh, but there's a special catch though, because these NFTs are only going to be sold for a few days and there's only 15,000 of them. And oh my God, so you better get in on it right now. You don't want to be left behind or else they'll be all out and you'll miss out on these incredible, amazing items of these digital files that you could make ad nauseum at any time because they're digital files. All of this goes to say is that they're using the confusion to try to sell people that these are cool, unique items. But then they take that, as I was sort of illustrating there, and make it an artificial scarcity. They can make these images of starships as much as they want. They are literally AI generated. They're really easy to make. You just click a button and they probably could make 10 billion of them. But they make them available in a small amount and sell it in a short amount of time, confusing you about what they actually are so that you're unsure but feel an incredible pressure to buy them right the heck now, or else you miss out because, hey, it's a cool Starship picture, and now you're out $250. And by the way, they do make these things seem incredibly cool. At the con, the booth that they sold it at was the flashiest booth in there. I even took some video of it that you're probably seeing right now. It was loud, it kept making rumbling noises, and if you went in, it had a freaking holodeck. Like, holy freaking shit. I even wanted to go in there every single time that I walked by, because I want to go on a fucking holodeck. I want to have Moriarty try to kill me like he tried to kill Data. Come the hell on.
Surely, Holmes, if that's who you truly are, you, of all people, can appreciate what I mean. Data. Say nothing.
But like a holodeck, it wasn't really real. It was flashy, but ultimately there was nothing there. That booth though was surrounded by other booths from vendors of items being sold that, admittedly, probably selling overpriced merchandise to very excited Trekkies. I mean, I did buy my overpriced Star Trek Enterprise doll because I wanted my own Trip Tucker, so capitalism screws us in multiple ways. But it is a tangible thing that I can get and take home, and it's cheaper than any NFT. Like, I got my own Trip Tucker. Mwah, I love you, Trip. Don't ever change, and don't watch These Other Voyages. That was, yeah, just don't. But this does get us to one of the most obvious and, on the surface, most damning criticisms of me and others pointing out the scam that NFTs are. Why do you hate NFTs so much if you're willing to buy other merchandise? If you don't want NFTs, don't buy them, that's fine, but you're a bit of a hypocrite for hating something when you do the same exact thing elsewhere. But this meme, and the criticism overall, basically boils down to the meme that we normally see when this sort of criticism goes around. How it always comes down to people saying things like, how come you hate capitalism if you enjoy it so much? And the obvious answer to this quite obviously is not that I love spending money, but that we have to live in capitalism. I can't not. All of us have to spend money in order to survive, and within that, we do want to buy things that help us at least express our love of something as best we can when we're able to do so. And so I do buy things to express that, and merchandising has always been a way to exploit that desire.
Exploitation begins at home.
Exploitation begins at home.
To the point that merchandising is honestly most companies' most pressing concern when it comes to actual art, not the art that it represents. Shows like Young Justice, for example, were actually initially canceled because their merchandise didn't sell well, despite the show getting decent ratings and being a freaking critical darling during its early 2 seasons. And honestly, it's still good in my opinion, but that's another controversial thought for another day. But NFTs are worse on 2 fronts. Number 1, they don't even give you anything tangible, just a receipt to a digital thing. And 2, and this is the larger point that we'll get to throughout the whole video, they're actually not something new. They are just like merchandise we've seen before, just more naked and overtly obvious in what it's trying to do. NFTs in practice are not some new idea, but the same idea at its most heightened and naked. That it's just trying to sell you a facsimile representation of the thing that you love in order to make money. And that's why so many people dislike NFTs. But we'll come back to that concept in a little bit. But NFTs give you nothing of value other than wasted money. And I've been talking about specifically Star Trek, but this same exact tactic has been done ad nauseum in so many places. We've seen so many fandoms and video game companies and just art places in general trying to get in on this scam in the exact same kind of way. But that's what this scam was meant to do. You see, things like fandoms get really fervently excited about new merchandise, new ways to show and display their love of something that they care desperately about. Trekkies in particular, for example, are so passionate about our franchise, I mean, look at me, for example, that we will spend a lot of money in order to show our love of that franchise, to have ways to display it around our home or interact with it. I myself have a shit ton of stuff just all around my apartment displaying my love of Star Trek. And yeah, merchandise sold by companies is meant to do the kind of same thing that NFTs are, sell you representations of things that you love back to you, oftentimes in very cynical ways. I mean, I did a whole video on how something like Baby Yoda in Star Wars was made specifically cute by Disney in order to get people to want to buy the hell out of merchandise of him. But at the very least, there was something tangible there. But NFTs are the latest ways to build off that merchandising idea, but it's even more blatant than ever because you're not even getting anything worthwhile. It's even less effort on their part than even the crappiest of doll to make, and yet they sell them for the highest amount of price, and they're misusing fans' love in order to make a buck. And by the way, I've just explained the initial part of the scam, but there's a hell of a lot more. There are environmental concerns with the creation of NFTs, security concerns because NFTs on the blockchain are very easy to get stolen, not to mention the often toxic and insular cultures that crypto bros create based on those who have been scammed out of money, and how people who have bought NFTs feel a need to perpetuate the grift in a Ponzi scheme, or else they'll feel like they wasted their money too because they want the value of NFTs to go constantly up and find more ways to make money off the fact that they just bought a now useless NFTs. And these things aren't just for the $250 that Trekkies had to shill out. I'm talking millions of dollars these NFTs have been sold for. And this isn't even to mention crypto game farms, which even the Star Trek Continuum thing is getting in on too, because Star Trek Continuum is actually a game. It's a game where you play to earn NFTs that feed this Ponzi scheme scam. Like the NFTs themselves, these games, like Continuum, are often low-level shovelware easily made and pumped out, where people literally work and grind in the game to farm NFTs. You even have to pay the initial $250 for the pack to get in with Star Trek Continuum, and some games even require an even bigger buy-in to play, like Axie Infinity. And it all works on constantly getting new people to farm NFTs in the game, who then have to sell their NFTs and generate more demand for NFTs, creating a false bubble market. Like, I'm sure it'd be somewhat cool to go around flying in your stupid little AI starship in Star Trek Continuum, but ultimately there are much better games that you could go play, like Star Trek Online, that do the exact same thing, and Star Trek Online is free to enter. Yes, also Star Trek Online has loot boxes and stuff like that, and that is also a problem with capitalism, which we'll be talking about in a little bit. But at the very least, it was like made with passion and not just like, we'll shove a game out so people can grind to make more NFTs like they're working a job. Speaking of these crypto game farms being jobs, people even farm out their own work within these games to people so that they will farm NFTs out for them in order for them to make more money. It's just Ponzi schemes all the way down, and Star Trek doing this nonsense is ridiculous considering everything that the franchise stands for. A future beyond needing to farm and worry about resources that aren't scarce, and how we are trying to work together to uplift everyone, not forcing people to work for us. And if you want to see how blatant this is with the Star Trek NFT program, take a look at how on their website, their main page is just a marketplace to sell more of these NFT starships, even prominently citing how much each NFT is selling for and their market value going up. Star Trek Continuum is not about playing the game, it's not about engaging with the Star Trek franchise, it's about generating a new marketplace to create greater value for their nonsense NFTs, rather than actually engaging with a franchise that means so much to people. If you even go into Recur's Star Trek Discord server, you'll see people talking about the nerdy stuff about the ship, like talking about the freaking adorable Oberth-class starships, cause nerds! And so these people are Trekkies. I'm not trying to discount their Trekdom or the love of the franchise, but then also in the same breath, they'll talk about how its design can be sold for more money. It's very antithetical to Star Trek and shows that their point is not really to engage with Star Trek, just using the veneer of Star Trek in order to try and sell NFTs. These people are Trekkies who have bought into this scam and are trying to generate more value instead of what Trek was all about, moving beyond money.
How much does this thing cost?
The economics of the future are somewhat different. You see, money doesn't exist in the 24th century.
Star Trek NFTs are not about representing something cool with the franchise, it's about using the facade of the franchise featuring an inspiring creative USS Enterprise to generate interest in an empty capitalist enterprise of its own making. Capitalist interests also ruin the art as well. NFTs have nothing to do with creators trying their best to contribute to something they love, a Star Trek show that inspires us all. But it starts to ignore the good work and creativity that people trying to make a show, make art, are trying to do. The issue with NFTs speak less about their creativity and their willingness to try to create something that we love, and more towards the issues with continued corporate control over these franchises and stories and works of art that we love. And how these corporations see these stories and franchises that mean so much to us more as cash cows rather than the works of art that many people who are working very hard on it see it as, or the people that consume it wish to engage with it as. And that's not a Viacom, CBS, or Star Trek problem alone. There are many companies doing this in many different ways, like we see in video game companies or with Disney and Star Wars and things like that. And by the way, I am just at the most basic levels with all of this stuff. There is so much more that's already been covered in more detail by this wonderful video by Folding Ideas that I highly encourage you to check out. And by the way, to head off you crypto bros in the comments, I know there are other uses for NFTs, but the main way they have been sold to a consumer market is a scam. And also, by the way, most of the other ways NFTs can be used are often done better by other things that are less environmentally impactful and don't require being housed on a server 24/7, wasting energy, even if the initial sale of them is carbon neutral. They're a product in search of a problem to solve. But pulling Stepping back from that, let's stay on the scam level because I want to talk a little bit more briefly about how these scams have been sold through actors and influencers with platforms. You see, I've already spoken about how NFTs have utilized fandoms and things that people have a great passion and care for in order to sell their grift, but there goes even further with very famous actors and figures trying to sell NFTs. For example, there are actors like Grimes and The Rock that have sold NFTs themselves. Grimes sold an NFT for $5.8 million, and she took the money, and now that NFT that she sold eventually sold now for only $1,200, an 84% drop in value, meaning that anyone that bought Grimes' NFT is now out a ton of freaking money because it's a scam someone was tricked into buying because they love Grimes. And Grimes knowingly used her platform in order to hawk this stuff to make money. And all of that is abjectly horrible, and it goes again to the same idea that we've seen within Star Trek and other fandoms, that people care about something deeply and so they get invested in buying an NFT because they're confused about it but just want to be a little bit closer to the thing that they care about, and also maybe get in on this thing to make a little bit extra cash themselves because maybe the NFT will go up. However, while that's fairly straightforward in how that scam is working, I want to talk about something a little bit more complicated, about how NFTs being used in things like fandoms and other companies like that also make everyone involved in those companies complicit, despite how little they may want to do with NFTs. How NFTs, like capitalism as a whole, always make us complicit in the horrible actions of people trying to make money. Because within the Star Trek franchise, as I mentioned before, Anthony Rapp, David Ajala, and Sonequa Martin Green use their platforms to sell and hawk these Star Trek Continuum NFTs as well. And on some level, people are 100% right to be angry at these actors using their platform and the goodwill that they have in order to sell NFTs to Trekkies. And by the way, let me talk to you about the goodwill that these actors have. As I said before, Star Trek is a franchise known for inspiring so many people, and many people latch onto the actors within these shows as people to look up to. I myself have looked up to so many people within Star Trek. Kate Mulgrew, Leonard Nimoy, and numerous others are literal heroes that inspired me since I was a little child. But many of these actors too, because Star Trek is such a forward-facing franchise, have gone on to be amazing activists in so many different communities. But this is even more so for someone like Anthony Rapp. Anthony Rapp has been a queer activist for decades now. When I was a young LGBTQ kid still trying to figure out who I was, Anthony was one man that I saw in the musical Rent alongside many others like Wilson Cruz, who started to give me the words to explain how I was feeling. The representation that Rapp gave, along with many others in that show and other queer art that started to go mainstream around that time, meant so much to me. I was so comforted as a young queer kid who didn't have those words to be able to be comforted by his work. And even after that, Anthony Rapp has been a model for the LGBTQ community, out and proud and using his platform to speak up about issues. I adore this man, and he means so much to me and to so many LGBTQ people. It's why he's been featured in things like Out Magazine and The Advocate numerous times, because he is an actual icon and activist. LGBTQ people stan and adore are so limited out and successful public real-life figures. And that's just Anthony Rapp. Sonequa Martin Green and David Ajala are also great activists and figures, and I've seen so many in the Black Trekkie community connect to them in the same way that many LGBTQ people connect to Rapp. I mean, Sonequa Martin Green, like Nichelle Nichols and Whoopi Goldberg in Star Trek before her, is an amazing fucking representation of black women in science fiction, showing that we all are in the better future of humanity that Trek embodies, just as Rapp does for the LGBTQ community alongside many others within the Star Trek Discovery franchise. So for these actors to use their platforms to sell NFTs sucks. A lot. If you're not an LGBTQ person, you maybe have no idea how disappointed and hurt you can be when someone you look up to in your community does something that disappoints you. Because we need these representations so much, they mean so much to us. I personally was hurt that Rapp pushed NFTs. But, as I always try to say, nuance is a thing. And I'm not here to absolve these actors of hawking the grift. Yet there is a difference between one speaking of their own accord and people whose job is on the line for a company that they work for being forced to sell something. Grimes and The Rock are personalities who are so big that they, in large part, not completely, but in large part, get to dictate their own audiences and images beyond corporate interests over them. And so when these actors are selling NFTs, they're selling them from themselves directly to their audience, and they pocket most of the money in the sale. However, Anthony Rapp, David Ajala, and Sonequa Martin Green aren't exactly that. You see, I adore them so much, but they aren't the big name actors like The Rock. You see, Recur, the company that is making Star Trek Continuum, is the one selling these NFTs, not the actors. These actors just most likely signed a deal to sell and promote the NFTs. You want to know how I know? Because I got the same exact email that they probably got. Or at least a similar one. You see, I am a famous Star Trek YouTuber. I mean, okay. Not really, don't want to aggrandize myself, but I am a decently well-known figure within the online Star Trek community. And so Star Trek Continuum reached out to me because I'm a Trekkie and they wanted to sell their NFTs, and so this is the email that I got. Hi Jessie, my name is and I am the VP of Brand Marketing at Recur. It's great to meet you. This week, like you, our Trekkie team will be at Mission Chicago, loud and proud with a massive experimental installation as we gear up for Star Trek Continuum, the first and official Star Trek NFT experience powered by Recur and Viacom CBS/Paramount Pictures. The goal of the project is to create an experience for Trekkie superfans to participate in the Star Trek universe in a way that's never been done before for years to come. We firmly believe that NFTs don't exist without a community, and we're looking to build the best one out there together with amazing creators like you. So wanted to gauge your interest in the project and see if you'd like to partner at Mission Chicago and beyond as we gear up for Season 0 Rocket Emoji. If interested, some opportunities specifically include a meet and greet with Sonequa Martin Green, Anthony Rapp, and David Ajala, VIP seats for a can't-miss panel discussing why Star Trek is entering the metaverse, hosted dinners, and many, many more. P.S. Your YouTube content is on point. Loved this one. A lot of things with this email to go into. First off, notice how there's literally no information about NFTs or how they're planning on selling them in this email. There's just this little context down here at the bottom, which is the same basic information that they have on their website. Secondly, and I might be reading too much into this, but look how they said the words loud and proud within one of the first lines of the email. That phrase, loud and proud, means a lot to the LGBTQ community. It is resonant within the LGBTQ community. So they're already sort of trying to resonate with my experience as a queer person within this email. Thirdly, you can clearly see that they're trying to get me to sign up for this with nice little perks for me as a Trekkie. I mean, I'll get to see Sonequa Martin Green, Anthony Rapp, and David Ajala, oh my god, and also VIP seats, oh my gosh, oh. And also they use words like metaverse, oh, our nerds love the metaverse, but also dinners, I like dinners, dinners are good. But the one that got me the most was the fact that they pointed out one of my YouTube videos, which by the way, the one that they went to here is my video on cancellation and cancel culture, which don't get me wrong, I'm really proud of this video, but what a weird video to choose to recommend, oh, your channel is great as a Trekkie. Why not pick one of my Star Trek videos? It's clearly that they found one that was doing relatively well recently in the algorithm and just plopped it into the email in order to try to convince me that, oh, they actually know my content. Believe me, I've gotten emails from people who want to work with me and do ads and stuff on my channel that do actually want my content, and it doesn't look like that email at all. So very clearly, it's a very superficial email that's trying to get me involved in their product and to sell their product with my platform. And to be honest with you, I get tons of emails like this all the time. This one isn't particularly special in any way, shape, or form. But what is unique about it is what it's trying to get me to sell without really giving me any good information about what it is. While also trying to entice me with things they know specifically will be interesting to me and phrases that they know will resonate with me as well. Again, common practice, but it is frustrating within this particular thing because they know and are targeting me specifically with things that they know will resonate with me as a Star Trek fan and a queer Star Trek fan at that. All the while kind of diverting my attention from what they actually are trying to sell. Now, these actors probably did not get this same email, but even more heightened, something catered to them and something that barely mentioned NFTs, playing up to their egos and their sense of community. Saying oh, Star Trek fans would really, really love this thing. It would be so cool if you promoted it for us because, oh, we know that your fan base would really love it and they would really find it meaningful and cool and they'd get a cool experience playing this game and getting their silly AI-generated starships. Or more likely, they never even saw the email and it was sent to their manager or Viacom CBS publicist or someone at Viacom CBS who signed the deal with Recur said, get the actors to make them do this sort of thing. These actors' entertainment contracts have a lot of mandatory promotional work tied into them. Many actors are at risk of losing their jobs if they don't comply with them. Even further though, even if the actors did have some sort of choice in being able to pick and choose whether they sold these NFTs, they were probably told by their manager or by Viacom CBS or some grifter salesman that, hey, this NFT stuff is some sci-fi starship things that Trekkies will fucking love. And these actors know that us Trekkies love our dumb, silly sci-fi merchandise nonsense and probably also were told by their managers, by Viacom CBS, that they really, really, really should sell these things. But then you probably say, why didn't these actors learn more about NFTs? Well, let's talk specifically about Star Trek, but we could apply this to many other situations. Star Trek actors from minorities are often attacked in online spaces by toxic fandoms. I've seen people tag actors like Rapp or his co-star Wilson Cruz because they're gay men in a franchise that they ostensibly care about, apparently, supposedly, to scream at them about how they're ruining Star Trek by shoving their gayness in your face. Because two gay men existing in a TV show is shoving it in your face, apparently. When straight couples on a show, kissing is just natural and normal, I guess. But I mean, these actors get this all the time. Wilson Cruz literally got called the F-slur at a Star Trek event last year. And Cruz, as well as Ajala and Sonequa Martin Green, get much the same in a racial context too. But that's a whole other conversation, but the point goes, they get toxic stuff online, so many of these actors and people may not be online where a lot of good NFT information can be found. NFTs, as I said before, are intentionally confusing by design in order to get people to buy them without knowing what they are, but they're also confusing in order to get people to buy into them in order to sell them. So these actors are probably told or pushed by their managers, bosses, and brands to sell NFTs while intentionally having good information about NFTs kept from them, both by not being able to have access to them online, or these people trying to get them to sell NFTs were probably selling them the grifty version of an NFT pitch rather than what NFTs actually are in order to get them involved. This does not mean that these actors should not have done their due diligence, but they may not have had agency in order to do that due diligence, or they were led in the direction away from good information. Not to mention, possibly, like I said, they were forced to do it. Further, by the way, I can bet most of you that these actors didn't even write the tweets promoting NFTs. I can't be 100% certain of that, but what I can say is that I saw Anthony Rapp's tweets about NFTs go up while I was literally standing in line to see an actor at Star Trek Mission to Chicago who was sitting next to Anthony Rapp at the convention. I could literally physically see Anthony Rapp when those tweets went live, and Rapp was busy talking to a fan right then that he had been talking to for several minutes. So, it's possible that he could have scheduled the tweet himself, or approved it or whatever, but I can bet you that he did not physically hit the tweet button, and it's possible that it was just a publicist who both sent it out and wrote it in the first place. It's important to note that these actors are not Grimes or The Rock. These actors could get fired at any time and can only speak up so much. I personally know many actors who have worked on big productions who can't say anything about the horrible things that go on because they want to be able to have another job next week in Hollywood, which usually does not hire people if they speak out. Even big name actors face this stigma. But this again is not something unique to NFTs. Constantly and consistently we see art and people who are so inspiring to many be used to sell products to the world. The best example of this is William Shatner himself. Last year, William Shatner was invited by Jay Bezos himself of Amazon fame to go to outer space. And a big deal was made of this, as well it should have been. I mean, this was freaking Captain Kirk going up into space. An inspirational metaphor for how much humanity has achieved and still could achieve in the future. The symbol of Shatner going to space epitomizes the dream of human ingenuity and spirit, and Shatner himself, upon returning back to Earth, clearly had a real human moment.
You know what the impression I had that I never expected to have is you shooting up.
Oh my God.
Give me a champagne bottle. Come here. I want one. I want to hear this. Here. You want a little of this? Okay.
Which was immediately ruined because Jeffy B tried to make sure to sell his Amazon space technology. Bezos is trying to win the space race so that he can be the first person to monetize outer space, to send his workers up into the universe so they continue to grind for money in outer space, like an NFT player grinding their life away mining crypto shit, or a coal miner working in the mines. Or, you know, an Amazon worker working in an Amazon warehouse. And so Jeffy Bezos took the symbolism of the future of humanity that Star Trek Captain Kirk and Shatner themselves embodied to sell his product. Capitalism takes art and inspiration and humanity and cheapens it, or more accurately, makes it all the more expensive. And it makes someone like William Shatner, who certainly is a problematic figure for other reasons, but is an inspiration to many, and makes him complicit in the grift, despite him simply wanting to have a human moment and going into space like all of us would. And by the way, guess what? Shatner's selling NFTs too, with Recur. Woo!
Of a secret project underway at the edge of Federation space. Rumors of an intelligent algorithm have emerged, capable of assembling tens of thousands of unique starships. Reports confirmed a new fleet is being assembled.
I'm sorry, I found this video after I started editing, and oh my god, they're using the stupid ship to sell their actual NFTs. It's in the video. It's in the video with William Shatner. Look at it go. Look at it go. Oh my god. It's so dumb. Actually, upon watching this back, I just sort of realized that they might actually be putting this ship front and center because of how stupid it was, in order to beef up its value as a meme and make it more valuable in their stupid NFT marketplace. God, I hate NFTs! They can't even make their dumbest starships not be part of the grift. And while Shatner had autonomy in choosing to sell NFTs, though, let's be honest, the 90-year-old man probably does no idea what an NFT actually is, and he should be called out for that. But comparatively, I'm willing to bet you that David Ajala, Rapp, and Sonequa Martin Green had a lot less, if any, say at all. But I'll admit, I'm biased here. I want to think the best of these actors because I do look up to them. So maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, and maybe they are intentionally selling these NFTs and think that they're a good idea, in which case I would be even upset. Or even if what I say is true and they didn't have much say in it, but you don't forgive them either way for selling NFTs, I totally understand that as well and don't take issue with that viewpoint. But my overall point here is that with these actors, there are complicating factors because of the place that this situation has in relationship to their jobs and their desire to continue working in the industry, as well as how grifters sell their grift to people using influencers and how they influence those influencers. And this is what NFT grifters want. It's the situation they want these people to be in. The actor's promotion helps the grift. In most places, because NFTs are so confusing, a trusted face will help sell the product. Yet, there's an even more cynical side to all of this. Because, due to everything that we've been talking about, NFTs have gotten a lot of negative pushback whenever they've entered new fandoms or spaces. So NFT grifters also know that they can use these public-facing figures in order to shoulder the ill will if fandoms react badly to NFTs in their spaces. Again, going back to Star Trek, you see many Trek fans, myself included, were really upset that Star Trek was being used by Viacom CBS to sell this grift, because they directly go against many of the values or enjoyment of things that people love. Yet, when fans are upset, what we will do is direct our anger at the people that we know the most, that we see most immediately associated with the thing that we are angry about, and ignore the actual people pushing the scam, like Recur in the case of Star Trek Continuum. It's because we know and care about these actors, and their promotion deeply disappoints us. Believe me, as I said before, it disappointed me. But it definitely should not be missed that the actors used to promote NFTs in Star Trek were a gay man and 2 black actors with community goodwill behind them. That makes them, 1, more likely to be trusted by fans who love them for all their activism, but conversely, makes them more likely to face attacks, vitriol, and blame because they are a minority. People in minority groups are often more likely to face heavy criticism for their actions, both from the people that care about them, because we are so directly emotionally invested in them, and from others outside of the community. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. All the while though, NFT grifters can sell their grift, then take their money, and no one directs blame at them because we are fighting the actors that we care about, who have put their faces at the front of this and who fans already have an emotional investment in. We ignore the actual villains here, and this is an age-old tactic: divide people and conquer. That being said, as I said before, it's still 100% true that people with influence have to take ownership of the impact of their platforms. I am saddened that these actors didn't do their due diligence before selling NFTs if they were capable of doing so. But there are nuances between someone not listening to a community when they speak to you, with someone like J.K. Rowling, for example, who has repeatedly used her platform willfully and acknowledgingly for harm against trans people and refused to listen to trans people, making good faith pleas for her to stop doing that, and someone like these actors who is intentionally grifted to by bosses, managers, snake oil salesmen, whose jobs are on the line, and who may not have even had ability to say no in the first place. Nuance requires that we don't apply the same moral cookie cutter at every situation, but look at it in totality. So while I am deeply disappointed at Anthony Rapp, David Ajala, and Sonequa Martin Green for hawking NFTs, I reserve my anger and energy for Recur. But I want to direct my anger where it needs to be directed. Not at infighting in my community, both as a queer person and as a Trekkie, but at those who pit us against each other in the first place. But we can go even further into the nuance here, because let's rewind a little bit to talk about how I mentioned before many minority people are criticized by people from outside of their community, not just those within them. You see, I see so many people who say they hate new Star Trek because it places minority people like LGBTQ folks and black folks in centralized roles, making some people that watch the show feel uncomfortable that the series that they love only includes them as part of the future now, rather than catering solely to their gaze and making everyone else feel otherized and off to the side. For the first time in the franchise, LGBTQ people aren't just seen as the weird alien metaphor, but as central pillars within the future of humanity. Same with black people as well. And straight white cisgender men, I love you. You are still in Star Trek. I love my Captain Pike and Picards, but you don't get to be the only one who takes part in that future anymore, because representation is becoming more and more common in that franchise, and it makes me so happy. That's not to say there isn't actual legitimate criticisms, or that you have to like Star Trek, or that if you hate modern Star Trek that you're automatically a bigot, but I do see a large part of the vitriol directed at the franchise come from that place. And so, in this situation, with NFTs being sold by these minority figures like Rap or David Ajala or Sonika Martin Green, I see many of those people who hate Star Trek because of that specific reason, that it makes them uncomfortable as straight white men, use this situation as justification of not only attacking these actors, but the franchise's representation as a whole. Oh, this is what happens when you let these people in. I literally have seen that being said. It's utilizing this situation in order to justify bigotry. And again, we see how capitalist motives, the desire to make more and more money, starts to pit more and more people against each other, creating infighting, stoking bigotry, stoking hatreds, stoking people within communities fighting themselves so they can't fight back as well against people being bigots. That is what NFTs do, but really, I'm talking about capitalism in general, and how capitalism and how the desire to make money forces this type of fighting, forces us to keep fighting each other, because that's the trick that they play. Capitalists have been doing this for ages, using wedges to pit people against each other instead of them, often along minority lines. One of the most overt examples of this same tactic being used, and just to be clear, I'm not saying these are on the same level, but just to showcase this type of tactic, was how in the 1800s, when many coal miners went on strike for better wages in the United States, coal mining companies would hire specifically black men for their factories because, one, black men were less likely to say no to work and pay because of their treatment throughout the years and the fact that they've been limited access to having jobs and money, and two, this would cause these striking workers, who are mainly white men, to attack and blame black folks for their problems, stoking racial resentments between them instead of both of them realizing that it was in their best interest to show solidarity as working class. This is how capitalism constantly pits us against each other, using false dividing lines like race or sexuality to make us fight each other instead of them. And we still see this same tactic too today. Democrats versus Republicans, black versus white, gay versus straight, trans people versus cis women. But it's not that. It's about all of us needing to band together to push back against the real villains. At the end of the day, I can take some solace in the fact that these Star Trek NFTs, along with many, many others, have basically failed. With Star Trek Continuum, they did sell out of their $5,000 Admiral packs, but most of those went to crypto bros already invested in NFTs doing well. There were so many tweets from people who say they bought Star Trek Continuum NFTs that they were proud Trekkies who got them and everyone should be so excited. But if you look at their accounts, they're mainly concerned with NFT stuff. This isn't to say that these people aren't Trekkies. They may be. I'm not here to gatekeep anyone's fandom, but I think they have another identity that they want to put forward. Further, Recur only sold 3,381 of the 15,000 NFTs that they aim to sell with the Captain Packs, which, considering the money that they put into promoting it, setting up the booth at the con, staffing it, and sponsoring Mission Chicago and more, probably means that overall it was a failure or close to. They certainly didn't make the amount of money that they had planned to. However, by the way, many crypto bros are now lying about the fact, saying that it was a huge success. Recur even took down the sale counter on the website to hide the fact that they didn't sell all of them, to try to push the narrative that they're actually doing really well. Because these people need this scam to work. Not only because they want to scam more people out of their money, but because many of them have spent a ton of their own money in the scam. So they need NFTs to do well to make their money back by reselling NFTs and propping up NFTs' value instead of them losing value, as they most definitely will, because again, Ponzi scheme. But while this was a failure, they will try again and with a new scheme. In fact, specifically talking about this, they will try to sell NFTs again because Recur is currently planning to sell NFTs to Nickelodeon fans, who are mostly kids, by the way, who will be even more confused about what NFTs are and will probably steal mom or dad's credit card to buy their favorite NFT characters like kids often do with things like loot boxes, which by the way are a similar type of grift in video games. But that kind of proves my point though, because if it's not more NFT scams, it's always going to be another type of scam to try to trick people out of money, because that's sadly how capitalism works. Trying to find new ways to monetize every inch of the world around us, and now every inch of the digital world around us. And in the process, it distances us from each other because we have to stay focused on grinding out in the silly game of life or the silly game of NFT crypto farms. We work and grind just to survive and maybe, just maybe, get enough money to buy something that gives us a little bit of joy in the world, makes us a little bit happy. You see, NFTs are just capitalism being brought into the digital space. And with more and more of us having to live in the digital space, with people like Meta trying to make the metaverse a thing, they're going to try to monetize every inch of this space as well. Just like they've done with our real world, making it a hellscape for all of us to live in. My point with all of this is not just to point out my issue with NFTs in Star Trek, but to wrestle with how things like NFTs make us all pawns in a shitty game of capitalism where we all just lose. These actors get their hands involved, the creators of Trek shows now have to stay silent about NFTs because it may hurt their jobs, fans have to speak out against it, and it hurts their love of a franchise, a thing that they care about, it causes infighting in communities and people angry at each other, or many people are tricked into loving NFTs and now they're fighting others to prove that their NFTs are worthwhile. Crypto bros often attack other people who speak out against NFTs. I myself got a lot of vitriol after my first video on NFTs because people were attacking me, calling me stupid and idiot for ever daring not understanding NFTs. Oh my god. That's what all of this does. And those at the top, like Recur, will make money while all of us at the bottom are made to get angry at each other and lose our sense of each other's humanity, as well as losing our money as well. All of this within Star Trek is a microcosm of how NFTs are being used, and NFTs themselves are a microcosm of how capitalism makes us complicit in it with little recourse and pits us against each other, fighting those we should care about while those at the top make money. I hate that I have to say any of this. I hate that I have to discuss this about my favorite franchise, about people that I care about creators I have adored and mean so much to me. And I'm sure I'm not making friends with this video, especially at a place like Viacom CBS, where I do one day wish to have the chance to contribute to Star Trek within. So I fucking hate this. And maybe I'll be blacklisted now, and the thing that I want most, my dream, to contribute to this thing that means so much to me, to Star Trek. I think about it like literally all the time, how much I just want to do something in this franchise. Maybe it'll be forever gone because I'm speaking out about this. Honestly, kind of tears me up a little bit. I kind of worried about putting out this video at all. But I feel the need to make this video because I do care about Star Trek. But more importantly, I don't just care about Star Trek, but I care about the community that Star Trek makes. Being at Mission Chicago, I met so many wonderful, amazing people who take the values of Trek and our silly love of a silly, dorky thing and use it to make the world better. So many activists, caring people, and creators who just want to be kind. But that's what art does. It inspires, it teaches us. It helps make the world a better place. I care about that community, and I care about the values that it taught me, of what Star Trek taught me. And NFTs, at least in how they're currently being used, stand against everything these values stand for. But within Star Trek, it's just a microcosm of the problem that we're all facing right now. The abject horrors that capitalism are creating for us. And how it's now coming even for our digital space and our art and our dreams. And how all of us shouldn't be fighting each other. We should be standing up together as a community and push back. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching this video. Like I said, I debated a lot about whether or not I should make it. We'll see how it goes. I hope it's helpful to people. Anywho, speaking of capitalism, let me do the YouTuber capitalism thing, because we're all complicit, we all gotta live in it. But please, if you can, do subscribe to this channel. It does help me out. I try to use geekdom and nerddoms and things like that to talk about social and political issues, like I did in this video using Star Trek to talk about things like NFTs. But that's what I do all the time on this channel, and I use those pop culture stuff to talk about things. Let me know in the comments your thoughts about NFTs and things like that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. I also have a Patreon page where people can help support me doing what I do. This is my full-time job, and people who support me on Patreon are what helps me eat, because communities coming together to care about people is really meaningful, and it's meaningful to me, and it really helps me, and I really do appreciate it so much for anyone who does support me over there. And on top of that, if you want to just hear me being a nerdy, geeky dork, I have a secondary channel called Jessiegender After Dark, where I do news, reviews, and reactions. I even review every episode of Star Trek as it comes out, including the currently being released Star Trek Picard and the upcoming released Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I also do a review of Marvel projects and things like that, and that's where that video that I've hawked throughout this entire video is about my adventures at the con. I am really proud of that video, so I hope you can go check it out. It really honestly would mean more to me that you watch that video than this one, because that's the one where I got to share joy at the world and for the community that means so much to me and why Star Trek means so much to me. It's all in that video. And beyond all of that, I have a podcast called Jumpgate that I do with the wonderful Vera Wild of the Council of Geeks channel, where we rewatch every episode of Babylon 5. We have currently just started it. We're in the beginning of season 1, and it's so cool for me to revisit a favorite science fiction franchise outside of Star Trek that I love. I'll leave that blooper in for all of you. Enjoy. But otherwise, thank you so much. I love you all. Mwah. And thank you to my patrons who you're going to see come up in just a moment. But otherwise, live long and prosper. Okay, so last month, I'll admit, I misspoke and said an extra special spanking instead of an extra special thank you for all of my patrons, but a lot of you resonated with the spanking, so I'm giving all of you who wish it an extra special spanking for supporting me over on Patreon. I love you and appreciate you all. Thank you for letting me do this and for letting me do what I do. So here is your spanking, you weird dorks who I love. Morgan the Pirate Queen, a man chooses, a slave obeys. Blue, Joe Herman Holt, Alicia Titivi, Miranda Janelle, Kathleen Lambath, Ashley Allen, Bo Kikio, Lily Gray, Stephen Kleinard, Ali Gobert, Jem Shin, Super Desi, Mary Mello, Matt Chung, Randy Thompson, Jordan Long, East the Mad, Wellington Marcus, Boyd and Mary, Beth Earl, D. Ray, G-Man 42, Vincent Ellington, Chloe Dollar, Felicia Toast, Sylvester Rotout, Joseph Dewey, James Krivda, Elizabeth Christensen, Barbara Ruski, Alex Miller, Dominic Noble, Jennifer Fuss, Zone 1 Librarian, Jessica Wright, Andy with an I, Nathaniel Fraughton, Sonia Naroperdo, Peter Launders, Farangato, Transit Toronto, Wendy Zabizzle, Shasha M, Leotha Boyd, Shield Maiden 4444, Piston Twisted Garage, Stephen Richardson, John Weatherby, Melinda Walters, W. Andy Edie, Kevin Freitag, Dew Bosch, Ulysses the Pagan, Beatrix Pruvis, Alex Owen, Tiffany Danger, Casual Observer, Maggie the Goblin, Lysa, Flynn, Jedi, Indiana Jones, Ajustad, William Stewart, Sarah Leslie Hutchkins, Julie Mason, Gretchen Badger, Sarah Lamoureux, Blueberry Hill, Jess Johnson, Eva Kaniva, Melody Ann Winters, Good Justine, Sarah Bystamp, Sky Skinner, Jason Knott, Troy Stull, Kaylee Sis, Nathan Steele, here Reese's Maeve, Verdox Kai, Luna T, Celestial Dawn, Spooky Heather Sylvia, Laura Demeraux, Crip Fax, Nikki Gordon Bloomfield, Ish Indra, Strawberry Pup Tart, Cyber Quaker, Sean Piper, Michael Godey, Jenny Marvel, Lydia M, Burr, Bella Lugosi, Corian Vale, honking in. I love you all, and I give you all that extra special spanking if you want it. If you don't want the spanking, I just give you my thanks for all that you do for me. Mwah.